Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this Nature Folklore session. It's the 1st of August, 2021. Well, a happy Lunacer to you all, Lammas to some of you, and holiday time. I'm broadcasting today in Clare's garden, and so excuse this all board here. That's to try and stop the sun going onto the computers here, but we should have a good show. It's been quite a bit of setup, but we got some lovely guests. They're all lined up here, waiting to come on and perform for you. So thank you for joining me, for joining us. This is our weekly time of exploring nature-centered folklore, connecting this within your favorite sanctuary space, and expressing your inspired visions from your sanctuary through your poetry, writing, art, craft, performance, and problem solving. And now this afternoon, our theme is going to be the first harvest folklore and the musings, our musings related to that. We do have some great poets coming up, so we'll definitely have some musing in its best. We're going to be exploring thankfulness and gratitude, and how your Lunacer is going. How are you celebrating Lunacer, Lammas, this time? Have you baked your first bread? Have you taken your potatoes up to a mound or a retreat or sanctuary space? Anyway, let's see. The guests we've got today, we got a nice special. It's only just come in, and thankfully I've got this up. We got La Dooley. I don't know if you're familiar with him, a lot crew. Lovely presentation he's got for us. And we've got Chandler Nichols, who's waiting in the background here. Here's a lovely photo of Chandler there. And B. Smith, and she has actually got, she was telling me she's got a first harvest Lammas loaf as well. And there's a couple of other things she'll be showing you. And there's Anne-Marie Delmotte. She's waiting here in the background as well. Now, these nature folklore sessions, as they bring up, they're brought to you. Thank you, subscribers. I'm going to be watching this afternoon. And if it'll come up, that's how I pay the subscriptions and pay for the repairs and keep the things going. So all help is greatly received, and thank goodness we have this and we're still up in the air. So who have we got joining us today? There's Elizabeth Flynn here. Good afternoon, John, and sending love from County Wexford. Happy Lunacer, Lammas, and as usual, as I suspect, Donna Johnson's baking away there. And happy Lammas Lunacer from her. And then we got Alan. He's arrived from Kildare. He's off for a party because he's a party man. And so fabulous, because I know a lot of you are going to be with families and going to be watching later on. And that's what's happened in the last few weeks. We've had a nice little intimate crew here live, and then a bunch of people come in the evening. And a lot of people have been watching through the week, so appreciate all that. And so hello to everybody who's watching and checking into this later. So to recap on the Garland Sunday from what I was doing last week. Last Sunday, I focused on fertility rituals that happen this time of year, especially that last Sunday in July. And by that, I mean the simple boy meets girl and other partner. And it was all about the wooing, the courting, and the mating. And I covered how this was done through the traditions of the frocking, the bilberry picking. And get back to my photos, just to remind you a bit of that. A little bit of bilberry picking. There you go. That was one of the photos I featured. All right, and trying to get my photos lined up. I still haven't got a smooth transition with my photos yet. Anyway, I also went through carrying an item of your first harvest, which was originally a barley loaf, maybe something like that. And then, of course, later on, it became the potatoes. And I talked of girls climbing these hills, wearing their garlands. Come on, photo, garland girl. There we go. She's not coming up. Garland girl photo. There she is. And how young women, if they were expecting a child, would break up the garland and scatter it, as she would no longer require the garland again, now that she's changed from maiden to mother. So I'm still trying to get my photos sorted out there. But anyway, there you go. There's a bit of a breakup of garlands. That's the picture I'm trying to get for you for that one. And now today we're going to talk more about the first harvest with Lunacer and Lammas. I'm going to talk about the origins of Lammas as I understood them. And so suggesting the barley loaf, definitely where it started from. And Lara's got a lovely explanation of the barley loaf and the harvesting a bit later on. Now, there's also the accompanying traditions of it being bad luck to harvest anything until the last Sunday in July. So those of you who've got polytunnels, tough luck. Anyway, that's a ruling that was post-medieval church time. And it was kind of a ruling that came in after the Pope Gregory put his obnoxious calendar in that we use today anyway. So today, I'm going to chat a bit about the accumulation of all of this, the Lunacer and the Lammas fairs. And there were up to 15 days of fairs, and there's this lad riding through a fair. That used to be quite a typical scene. And we know this time in Ireland as Lunacer, with some observations towards the Tour de Danann of Lugh. And there's artist's impression of Lugh that I've shown before. But seemingly the Lugh tradition is towards the image of Lugh being a sun god. And he's not coming up as a sun god yet. Give it a couple of seconds. There we go. There he is, the sun god. And he also known as a leading figure in the Second Battle of Moytura. Though there are, you're probably familiar with some of them, there are some online facts police out there, and they challenge the claim that Lugh is about being a sun god, but he's actually, his tradition is to break up the summer. And again, the photo's taking about 10 seconds to come up. There you go. There it is, if you can actually read that. And I must say, I prefer the mixed imagery of Lugh, but as a sun god, of course, that's a simple way to share. So whatever you fancy to share this time of year, as far as I'm concerned, it's perfectly okay. Whatever it passionately means to you is the way you go. But tales are told of Lugh leading the introduction of the annual games in order of the vitality of his foster mother, Teotihu. Various pronunciations of that, and I think I got her there. I love this artist's impression of her. She's certainly not chopping trees there or doing anything too wild. And she's said to have died at this time. Now, after the felling of forests to make way for more farmland, that's how the story is told, isn't it? That she fell the forest, and Lars going to give the example of a local forest around Loughcrew, where the tale is very strong of that. But it says how she fell the forest to make way for the food. She died and collapsed. But there is a lesser known one, and this is really the one I was first taught, is that Lugh's foster mother, it wasn't trees she brought down, but she was similar to John Barleycorn. And every year at this time, she was actually bringing the barley down and all the other cereals. So there's Lugh providing the sun and the illumination and the warmth. And Lara, I think Lara's going to talk about this, that last post, bringing the summer rain so it doesn't totally burn up. So she's back every year for the harvest. I love that imagery because people didn't have clocks and watches and calendars. And the use of this imagery, I think, was fantastic for them knowing what time of year it is and what they're doing or should be doing out in the field. So that's the way I look at it. But then when Teotihu dies each year after cutting and harvesting the gold barley that being made by the sun, another artist impression that I love. But then there's the light of Lugh there's just, and it's not coming up. Sorry about that. There we go. Light. I love that postage stamp in dedication. So there's a lot of crossovers of tradition here, I feel. that have been applied to Lu, and I love to hear all of them. But I'll talk about that later. It's enough of that for now. I'm going to move over from Lu and Lunasa to the traditions of Lammas. And that's more in line, I think, with the first harvest. And I love that sort of imagery of first Lammas there. And I'm trying to get more pictures up for you. There's a lot of pictures today, so this is going to be quite graphical. But the Lammas word, it comes from a Saxon term, Hlafmas, and I think I've got that. There we go, Hlafmas, that's how it's spelled. It's become Lamman, which means blessing the first loaf. However, since the Saxons became Christian, Lammas seems to have become adopted by Christians, especially by the Protestant church. And so you'll hear more about Lammas in Scotland and Northern Ireland and Wales even than you will so much in Ireland. But as Lunacer has become regarded as the pagan cross-quarter ritual, and the Catholic Church seemed to have adopted that in a way, but of course they've had to shift it over, as you know, to the Gregorian way, and even moved it to Garland Sunday. The church accepts Garland Sunday, and I mentioned all about that last week, so I won't cover that again. But the Lammas Fair, as I say, I think it seems to have developed as a Scottish tradition, and it spread into Northern Ireland. But unfortunately, there's very few Lammas fairs today. When I was a young lad, there was loads of them. But the fairs happen because excess crops from the first harvest, they could then be sold. And cattle could be sold too. And through that, Lammas was one of the 4 times of the year when there was good trading. That's the idea of the fairs, is trading, and debts could be paid, overdue rents paid too. So there was a lot of settling. And one of the features of this market and fair was the presence of debt collectors. I couldn't get any good pictures of debt collectors, but they were there. And I remember them in the markets when I was young. They were definitely there, going around, how are you doing? You know, going around the stands. They were ready to pounce on their money that was owed to them. So they wandered the stores, collected the money. They did this before the traders could take the money to the pubs, the brothels, and to the racetrack, because at these fairs there was racing. So it was the idea was they would pounce on the money before the storeholders could take them to anywhere else. But these Lammas markets, they were not just like our farmers markets. They actually once upon a time included the firing and hiring of servants. So that almost makes them like slave trade markets, doesn't it? Which is a bit unfortunate, but that's how it was. But there's actually a connection here to the Bilberry Sunday and Garland Sunday I was talking about last week. And you may have heard of trial marriages. The trial marriages, the year and a day things. There's a modern version of it. When the photo decides to come up, there it is. And if this all went well, after a year a day, the couple could bond into permanent marriage. And this was a tradition that did start at the Lammas Fair, and it's said to have actually started at the Lammas Fair in Kirkwall in Orkney, and then spread that tradition of the bonding spread to other Lammas fairs. So the year and the day marriages, they were a legal arrangement. That's the old hand fasting way. And it was often handled with the blacksmith in the fair, and he would end up being the celebrant. So this was definitely a semi-convenience for couples who perhaps had been wooing and mating through Beltner, and it gracefully moves the fling. The woman gets pregnant. So this is a nice convenience of a transition into a trial marriage arrangement before they made their lifelong commitment. But perhaps the most famous from the Kirkwall Orkney Lammas Fair were the Lammas brothers and sisters. I don't think I quite have a picture of that, but I'll bring that one up. Another hand fasting one there. And this was a tradition. Well, boys and girls were allowed to openly have sexual relations with each other during the term of the market. The Kirkwall market was 11 days. Well, it was a fair, as I say. So they had 11 days of romping about, rumpy-bumpy, whatever they did. But at the end of the 11 days, they had to separate at the end of the fair. That was the end of that type of arrangement. So was that, if that spread, was that the origin of spring break in the USA? I know the spring break is a lot earlier, but a similar sort of tradition, isn't it? Now, the matchmaking fairs and festivals around Ireland during August, I'm sure they were very inspired by this. And there's a famous matchmaker. There you go. A lot of you probably know him. I forget his name, which is really bad. Anyway, the only annual Lammas fairs that seem to remain in Scotland today, there's St Andrews. There's a picture from St Andrews. And Inverkeithing, and both these towns are in Fife, the county of Fife. So the tradition is still very strong there. Now, Inverkeithing, that's a 3-day one. That's the first of the two. And that starts, well, that'll be over this weekend. And it's 3 days. I think it's the Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. And then St Andrews one, which is the following weekend, next weekend, the real sort of sidereal time, Lunacer time. And that lasts for 4 days. That starts up on the Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. Now, in Ireland, Northern Ireland, there's still the old Lammas Fair in Ballycastle. And here's a lovely old picture of that. I think I've got the right one for that one. Is that the Lammas? Yeah, that's Ballycastle, isn't it? That's great. Photos are working now. But there's no longer the 11 to 15-day festivals like there was. There's another Ballycastle picture here. Well, there is eventually. Come on. Okay. Yes, come on, Ballycastle. Number 2. There it is. They have the horse fair as well. So one thing I love, and I remember this as a child because all of these Lammas fairs had this, is a kind of, it's like the centre of crunchy bars. The Yellow Man, you buy a bag of honeycomb toffee, and I used to absolutely adore that. As soon as I got to a fair this time of year, that's the first thing I had to do was go and get some Yellowman candy, and also some dulse. Dulse is sold. Seaweed sold a lot of these fairs too. And there's also a Lunacer Queen too, is how they used to do it. Lovely old photos of that. Thinking of the Garland stories last week, and there's some people there for the Queen. The Queen's helpers having a break. Come on, Queen's helpers. There you go. Well, there they are, having a break there. Now, Eastbourne down in England, they've started a Lammas fair the last weekend of July. I think they started kicking off before COVID. And I hear they're holding that this year as well. Now, in Ireland, Lammas is Lunacer, of course, honour of Lu. And this time is also traditionally in the past was related to horses, and especially the horse goddess Epona. So there's an old archaeological find of Epona, which I think is quite beautiful. And there was an ancient tradition of racing horses in water, and riding horses, they would race actually with the horses swimming. And Loch Owl, north of in Mullingar, north of Mullingar, that was a huge venue for that. And there's a lovely old picture of the horses on the water. And there was apparently very heavy bets, and unfortunately some riders and horses did drown. It was a very dangerous activity. But they held these races for 2 weeks at the end of July, and then they would have the full Lammas fair on this weekend, the first weekend of August. And it said the beach racing. I got some lovely beach racing pictures. That's said to have taken over from the water racing. So look at these lovely pictures of the beach racing that kind of took the place of that. If pictures had come up, there we go. Sorry about the sluggish photos. I don't know what's happening with them today. And I do believe, it's 2 weeks of Galway races at the end of July. And I'm sure that was descended from the beach races as well. Now, another celebration in August, I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with, is the Puck Fair, which I'm sure has descended from the Lunacer fairs. And this is hosted 10th to the 12th of August every year at Killorgan in Kerry. And it's said to be the oldest fair in Ireland, and I heard it dates back to the Firbolgs, pre-Tour de Dawn, and that's how the storytellers say. There's a famous person in that picture who's kind of celebrated near Killorgan, but I won't talk much about that. But the puck goat of Killorgan, that's the main imagery of this. If he would come up, there we go, puck goat. Yes, you're allowed to come up. Come on, Puck. Here he is. There he is. And that's really a Cromwellian story. I'm not going to go through the full story, but generally his Roundheads were terrorizing Kerry, seizing people, burning their houses down, and all the rotten things that you've heard. But they rounded up the goats to take the goats away from one of the villages or a couple of the villages, sent them up a hill. But Puck actually went wandering into Killorgan. There was something about Puck that was actually a nice warning. It was a firm warning. So the Killorgan people, they hid and they got together and they actually formed a little bit of a quick army and they actually chased the Roundheads away. So the Roundheads didn't plunder Killorgan, and that's what this festival celebrates. And then we got the Coriole Fair. I've been to this one a few times. This is lovely. This is I'll bring that. That's a lovely puck photo because they have a puck queen as well. But this is it. This is Coriole Fair, and that's on for 5 days. So that's one of the longest ones. It's from the second Saturday of August. It's been going for 35 years. So 35 years makes it quite new. But I think it's a lovely tradition that brings a lot of these Lammas traditions together. And I think I got some more pictures. There we go. That's quite typical, especially on the Wednesday, the 5th day. And there's these jolly spinners on that day. Come on, yes, jolly spinners, where are you? There they go. And there's them. And then Keiju. Keiju has their harp festival. I don't know how related it is, but normally it would be on today, the height of it. It's the O'Carolan Harp Festival. And it takes on a small fair atmosphere as well, and during the Sunday and Monday of the first weekend of August holiday. And then towards the end of the month, Granard down in Longford, they do the same thing as well. But the Keiju Fair, that's been going for 44 years now, and they have an O'Carolan Park. It's a beautiful park, which there you go, there's the park, and it has a sweat house, and it demonstrates how to use it up there as well. Now Newry in County Down, they're trying to establish a Lammas Fair for the first weekend of August, and they're actually going to call it Lunacer Fair, I believe, but the COVID has held them back on that, but that's up and coming in Newry. Now another thing I'd love to point out with that is Juliet in Romeo and Juliet. And if you go into that, I think Shakespeare has done a beautiful job using the symbols of Lammas. And of course, Juliet says tragedy, her life ended at 14. But that was before she could reap what she could sow. So in some ways, I believe that Juliet was inspired, Shakespeare was inspired by Tochu. The story there for that. Anyway, I'm going to get on with the first guest. That's my sort of long introduction of Lammas Fairs. I hope you enjoyed that. I enjoyed that. Excuse me while I take a sip. So I'm going to bring the first guest here because who perhaps might explain that a little bit better than I did. La Dooley. His life journey has been quite similar to mine. I was quite fascinated sharing notes because he got into this when he was a wee child, and he became intertwined with megalithics, like both of us. But unlike me, he stuck to it. Because I've talked about it in other nature folklore that I had a kind of experience, and about in 2009, and it threw me into an intense passion for trees, holy wells, wildflowers, and water. I was very much passionate about those things. But boy, because of that experience in Belgium 2009, things really changed in my mind. And because I've been a megalithic mythology of megalithics addict for quite a while, then all of a sudden, because of that experience, I suddenly despised all that world. And I'm not going to go into why. But later on, I've kind of found a balance in it. But La Dooley here, he's found a home at Loch Crew, Slievenage Kayak Barra. And I thought I had a picture of him, but I don't seem to have a picture of him. Anyway, you'll see him in a moment. But not only is Loughcrew his home, but it's his passion, it's a retreat, and it's the eye of his wisdom, really. And it's a constant source of rebirth from dark to light from him. So from that experience, he's released his book. This is his book here, the book cover. And Out of the Darkness, that's his book. And the way this book flows, he makes the book follow a complete maiden, mother, crone, and rebirth cycle. And it's beautiful how he does. So as he goes through each component there, maiden, mother, crone, he brings in traditions, he brings in some of his poetry, he brings in some of his stories. Easy read, beautifully done. And through this book, I find Lar is guiding, he's mentoring, coaching, and entertaining right the way through it. So one day, probably during the So On series, I'm going to invite Lar to actually try and come on live. We got a recording from him now, and we'll have a longer connection to his book. For now, I did invite Lar to share a few minutes of his passion for Lunacer, and I love his presentation of this. So without further ado, I'm going to try and get Lar going here, and I'm sure you'll enjoy this. So Lar Dooley, everyone.
I'm Lar Dooley. I'm coming to you this morning from the Loughcrew Megalithic Centre.
No, he's not coming up.
In County Meath. And
sorry about that. I seem to have frozen this.
Lunasadh, the Festival of Lunasadh.
I think I'm going to try and get him back to the beginning. Really, sorry, I got a problem watching the screen here.
Festival came from.
Excuse me as I try and
get
About
6,000 years ago, the first Neolithic settlers came to Ireland. There were probably a few different settling groups in Ireland, but in my belief, at least, Loughcrew is a hugely important part of our national and indigenous history. The Festival of Lunasa originates in the Boyne Valley and quite possibly in its origins up in the Loughcrew Hills, Slieve na Collie. The guiding spirit who brought the ancestors here was called An Cailleach. And Cailleach is normally interpreted as a witch or a hag, but the word actually is way older, and the word Cailleach is a Gaelic word meaning a veil. And in most religious or spiritual or even pagan groups, the women would cover their hair or their face in a veil. It's quite a common procedure in many religions around the world. And in this case, we're talking about indigenous spirituality, so we're going back 6,000 years. So the Cailleach was not a witch or a hag. That culture came in with the planter culture in the 15 and 1600s, with the English culture that came in from the British mainland. And we have our own indigenous culture, which belongs in the Boyne Valley. What I'm talking about basically encompasses the Boyne Valley. So it more or less begins in Loughcrew and ends with the building of the joint tumuli of Bruna Boyne, especially Newgrange, who most people would know. Okay, so when the ancestors came here, they came out of the Fertile Crescent in the Eastern Mediterranean, so over towards Iran and Iraq. And they came following what is normally referred to as the biblical flood, a huge flood that engulfed the Mediterranean and washed seawater the whole way into the deserts of Iraq. So hundreds and hundreds of miles from the Mediterranean coastline. So it was obviously a huge influx. It could have been a tsunami, or it could have been a volcanic eruption in Crete or Greece or Italy or any of these countries where there still are volcanic activity to this day. So the ancestors sailed out of the Mediterranean, hell-bent on starting a new life somewhere. And when they came up the Boyne River, which is named after the goddess Bo, or in the southern half of the country, the goddess Bui, B-A-O-I, Fada. And they sailed up the Boyne Valley, and they were intent on building a temple. So in order to build a temple with the memory of the biblical flood in their mind, they decided to head for the hilltops and start building their temples on the hilltops. More than likely, the first temple that was built was a structure called Cairn T, which is on top of Slieve na Colleiach, Slieve na Cailleach itself. The range of hills is called Slieve na Cailleach, but Slieve na Cailleach is called after the Cailleach herself. And Cairn T is the primary cairn on top of the hill. There are, I think, 7 cairns on this hill, but Cairn T is without doubt the premier cairn. Not only is it the premier cairn, but when the ancestors sailed into Ireland, they only knew 2 dates in their annual year, which was winter solstice and summer solstice. And they brought with them 2 or 3 main crops, a survival crop of barley and a main crop of spelt wheat and possibly emmer wheat, or vice versa. The difference being barley can be grown in winter, or it can be planted in spring, and it is harvested around early August. In and around the 5th of August, the harvest begins. So Lunasa is actually the first harvest. It is the harvest time for the barley crop. Further on in the year, in the solar year, we come to the next fire festival, which is Samhain. And Samhain is in and around the 5th of November. And that is the final harvest, the harvest of the spelt wheat crop. So where do we come, or where does Lunasa come from? Well, when the ancestors came here first and they built Cairn T divided their year into 4 solar festivals. So we had winter solstice, summer solstice, spring equinox and autumn equinox. And the ancestors tried to grow their spelt wheat and their barley wheat, or their barley at this time. Spelt wheat is a notoriously difficult crop to grow. It takes 6 months to grow, but it also needs a warm soil temperature for the kernels to germinate and the crops to begin to grow. So the answer to all this was to break the year further into 8 parts. So each division between a solstice and an equinox was divided in 2, was subdivided, creating the 4 fire festivals of our ancient culture. So the 4 sun festivals are the 2 solstices and the 2 equinoxes. The 4 fire festivals are in turn Imbolg, in my belly, Baal Tina, the mouth of the fire, Lunasadh, the festival of Lu, and Samhain, the final harvest, or the time when the wheat came to being. So today we're discussing Lunasa, and Lunasa is marked on the same hill in Slieve na Cailleach by a structure called Cairn S for Sally, and Cairn S is unique in the cairns on top of Slieve na Cailleach, in that it has a sunset alignment rather than a sunrise alignment. It overlooks the Cavan region over towards Loch Sheelin. And in history we are told, and in mythology we are told, that the plains of Tailteann had 50 hillocks on them, whereas the claim, in modern times, the claim over Tailteann aligns with a town called Telltown in County Meath. But if you look from Slieve na Cailleach towards Telltown, the landscape is actually flat. There are no hillocks. Whereas if you look from the structure of Cairn T out towards the horizon, there are 50 hillocks, or in and around. I've certainly never counted them, but there are a lot of hillocks and hills on the horizon. So more than likely the plain of Tailteann and the forest of Killorgan, which was a primeval forest. And the goddess that we are talking about when we talk about Lunasa, we're not talking about the god Lu. Lu commemorated his foster mother, a lady called Tailteann, who was a harvest goddess and the goddess of the barley crop. Now, when Tailteann was coming close to her death, she had arranged for the forest of Killorgan to be cleared, this giant primeval forest, in order for the cereal crops to be grown, so that the farming culture could extend into the country. And so when she was close to death, she asked her foster son, Lu, Lawfather, who was aligned with the god Lu, who represents the sun, to bury her on the hilltops overlooking Tailteann. And it's quite significant that the cairn known as Cairn S actually points in the direction of the 50 hillocks of Tailteann, and it has a sunset alignment, so in actual fact it may represent the sun going down and the reign of the goddess Tailteann. And Toltu, as we said, was Lou's foster mother. This gave Lou, because Lou had his own maternal and paternal lines, and he had a goddess for a foster mother, he became, in stature, according to our old practices, a god himself. A god is somebody who has three distinct lineage family history. And so Lou became the god Lou. And you created a festival called Éannacht Talton. Éannacht meaning a fair or a meeting place or a festival. And it is in this festival that the first laws of Ireland were created, the precursors to the Brehon laws. It was a week-long festival of military might, you know, of men fighting one another to show off their fighting prowess. It was also a festival where the animals would have been bought and sold and the crops would have been traded. And of course, a hugely important time for people to gather and represent and remember their ancient culture. So Lunasa, the festival of Lunasa, occurs on the 7th of August this year, which is a Sunday. That is the aligned date. In other words, it is the date which is halfway between summer solstice and autumn equinox. And that, in reality, is the origins of Lunasa, the festival, and the time of the year we remember as Lunasa. All of the four fire festivals still retain their Gaelic names, and more. They are all marked by cairns up and around Slieve na Cailleach and on the matching hills in Slieve na Cailleach, the three hilltops which encompass the Tiar, or the sacred sanctuary of the Kingdom of Brega. And the Kingdom of Brega extends from Loughcrew the whole way over to the origins of Bruna Bonia, over as far as Nelt. And it is a very powerful ancient kingdom. So that is my thoughts on the festival of Lunasa. Anybody who wants to read any more can certainly inquire to me. My name is Lar Dooley. I'm on Facebook as Lar Dooley, and I have written a book on Indigenous Irish spirituality, and it's called Out of the Darkness. It's called Out of the Darkness because the whole idea of the book is to bring people into an understanding of what our ancient culture was and how these festivals evolved and how they became structured in our society even today. Today or tomorrow, I'm not really sure which, is the 1st of August, and in our Indigenous language in Gaeilge, the month of August is called Lunasadh. It represents the festival of Lunasadh as well. So any information you require from me, you can get me Lar Dooley on Facebook. Lovely, thanks very much. Thank you, John. Blessings, everybody. Thank you.
Well, thanks very much there, Lar. He only just got that to me just before the show and got it up. So I didn't have time to put pictures of what he was talking about. And sorry about the echo as well. But it was a rush job, and I'm glad that we got him on anyway. So Lar's book, Out of Darkness, Sacred Journey into the Origins of Indigenous and Irish Spirituality. That's the cover again. I know you like to rush and get the books. People love books that we present here. But they're only available at the moment from the Loughcrew Visitors Centre. And you might even see Lar there. He's a guide there, and he guides people around and tells a story. And you'll also find the books at Maguire's in Tara as well. But that's the only places. Now, I've been ignoring you, and you've done lots of comments. Let's see what you're saying. I'm in Claire's garden, and Claire says, Lar, thanks very much for sharing the knowledge. Davina's on board. Lovely. Good morning from Virginia. Little Wing, hello Linda, how are you doing today? I'm going backwards in the comments. And Little Wing's coming in from YouTube there. And Linda Rosewood up there in Donegal, who's saying she can hear and see fine. That's a relief. Thank you so much for that. And Little Wing, you're loved. There's Claire, hearing loud and clear. Lovely in the garden. Now, I must point out with Claire here, I'm in the garden, and Claire's back in the B&B business. She has a small B&B, so if you're in Dublin, a lot of people in events, and they love somewhere that's kind of, how can I put it? You see all these trees, and it's very quiet. It's a real sanctuary here in its own right, so yet it's very handy for Dublin. Yeah, contacting, message me if you're here, and I can pass the messages on to Claire, or Claire@ClaireRoach.com will do the job. I should have put that up, but Claire@ClaireRoach.com. Most people can remember Claire Roach and sticker.com at the end, so there you have it. I'm right if you're in the Dublin area and looking for a bit of B&B. Missed the initial comment. Well, it'll all be, if you've missed anything, it'll all be there in the archive, and photos just a slow coming up, very slow, and so it all messes up the transition when I'm trying to talk. So I'm glad you're putting up with it. Willie Daly, yes, that's the man, matchmaker. Thank you for that. I'm glad someone came up with that. And also, while I'm talking about that, please post things that you're doing over this Lunacer and Lammas time, things you're baking and so forth, and in the comments. I'm not sure. I think you can put photos up. Obviously, I can't put them up on the big screen, but lovely to see what you can share. And we've got Gary Brannigan here. I know he's usually baking something. And we saw him last week going up the Reek Crowpatrick. And since then, he's been out into some lovely, very secret places, and not so secret now for getting the bilberries as well. And we got a little wing, true love of Lancashire. So have I called you all up? It's lovely. Hello, everyone. Oh, Kimberly here. Morning from North Shore in Massachusetts. Just put my bread in the oven. Sometimes you have to be careful how you say that. No wonder that we have things like Garland Sunday and so forth. And it's just dawn here for Patricia Rice over in Vancouver Island. Just share, create normal FB group. Hi, everyone. That's Elizabeth Flynn, who's become quite regular. It's lovely to have. Yes, that's you all in. And there's someone saying, hi, B. She's saying hello. She's sitting patiently in the back room. So let's go on the show, because we're going to have more guests coming up immediately, really. So thank you all for tuning into that. As I say, next up, she's live. We've had recordings, a lovely regular poet. We got Chandler Nichols up left. I'll get rid of Lars' picture. That's in Lars' book. I must show you the inside lot crew. And I think that picture there is from Mythical Island. I think Lars got permission to do that. Sorry, I hope, Anthony, forgive me for giving a quick peek at that. So Mythical Island, go to there. It's an absolute wonderful reference. And you can actually, from Mythical Island website, you can actually find the exact moment, the exact time link over to, when we're actually having lunas, when the point it is. That's where I get the information when I put weather reports up, as it comes from the Mythical Island website. I'm trying to maneuver the stuff here. Forgive me for playing around, because we're going to bring Chandler up in a second. Organize my screens, and there's Chandler. And I'll just put my headphones on so I can hear something. And I've locked on my headphones here. There we go. Hello, Chandler. It just reminded me I better get my front screen sorted out. So we'll get us all onto full screen here. And very good morning to you there, even though it's afternoon there. And wow, without further ado, introduce the poems you've got for us at this time. I'm thoroughly looking forward to this. Can you hear?
I'm looking forward to sharing. Can you hear me all right?
A little bit more volume if you can.
Is this better?
Oh, yeah, excellent now, yeah.
Okay, fantastic. I'm going to share two poems today, of course, relating to Lunasadh and harvest. One of them is certainly more of the physical aspect of the harvest, with all of the fruits and vegetables that we are blessed with this time of year. But the other, I take more of a non-physical approach, and this is a good time of year for me to reflect on what I have sown in the past spring and what I can reap from the knowledge I've gained. So I hope you enjoy. Here's the first one. Harvest blessings of Lunasadh. O blessed earth, I thank thee for thy bounty of sweet bilberries and hearty grain, succulent tomatoes and vegetables plenty. From your heart I shall celebrate with breads and jams. Upon all colors I shall dine, sharing your blessings with others, thanking the souls that gave their mortality for mine. The family garden is wealthy, with fruits of summer's labor. The old spring is awash with rain, the wind infused with scents to savor. Blessed be the hungry. Blessed be those who honor their nourishment, who recognize the wealth of life and the sacrifice of its existence. So pray tell, why are humans so wasteful? They throw away the apple sweet without taking a bite, then to more food retreat. The animals are slaughtered, and the plants are torn from their roots. Their souls wasted for rot, their energy misused. So when the time shall come for my soul to rise, let my body rest beneath the roots of the tree, and return all that I have taken from the earth, such that my soul and those I consumed are free. May my ashes feed the hawthorn, may my bones nourish the reed, may my flesh satiate the wolf and the crow, may my blood sustain the stream. May life, and upon my rebirth, though I shall take again, I pray I shall live and let live, get and give, but not without love for the giving beast and grain. So now for my second poem, and this is certainly one more of what has my soul done this year to grow. What can I now reap from what I have sown? Moonlight brighten this dream of mine, this dream of dancing, spinning, whirling, harshness of fire, and gentleness of starlight. Hearken to my words, O ancestors singing. Moonlight hasten these steps of mine, these steps of dancing, spinning, whirling, inward and outward, black ocean tides. Mark my pathway, O dust roads blowing. Moonlight enlighten this soul of mine, the soul of dancing, spinning, whirling, passions of heart and fears of insight. Guide mine eyes, O hillsides dimming. Moonlight sharpen these words of mine, these words of dancing, spinning, whirling, power of balance and weakness of steel. Hone my hands for silence and crafting. Moonlight lighten this heart of mine, this heart of dancing, spinning, whirling, tender desire and abhor. Veil my blood for the dews of my soul. Moonlight brighten the stream of dancing, spinning, whirling, harshness of fire and gentleness of starlight. Hearken to my words, O ancestors singing.
Ah, lovely. Thanks very much. As usual, it's a pure delight to have you, Chandler. Miss the hammer dulcimer this time. How was that? But so thanks for getting up very early for that, and welcome anytime. That was a beautiful contribution. Thanks very much. Right, there's a couple of more comments, and there we go. We got Gary, I think, has said something. If I can trace him up. No, it's not Gary. Davina there. Then we got a lot of people from YouTube today. The Inside Life of Tasha says hi. And we said, there's Davina as well. Now, next up, though, we got Kimberly. As I was saying, thank you very much, one of our subscribers. Thanks very much for the wee extra there. That's going to help a bit. So thank you, Kimberly. And Davina, lovely. Thanks for sharing, Chandler. Now, next up, Anne-Marie. Let's get Anne-Marie keyed in here. Anne-Marie, Dame Anne-Marie Delmont. Good morning, or good afternoon to you. It'd be good afternoon because she's just uploaded. How are you doing, Anne-Marie? How are you?
Hello, John.
All right, you're lovely and clear. And as I say, with Anne-Marie, we've got she's got two poems. So we've actually got them recorded. We got the Seven Woods of Cool, and followed that, she's got a poem of Loch Crew. And Anne-Marie here is to introduce them to you on live. So Tell us about these poems, definitely, Anne-Marie. Love to hear.
Okay, I made some notes as usual because I tend to rant when I'm speaking English. So good afternoon, John. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen who are here today. When John asked me to share some words with you related to early harvest, Lunasa, the first one that sprang to my mind is the following. It's actually a letter that W.B. Yeats wrote to Lady Gregory about her seven woods at Coole Park near Galway in Ireland. I actually visited these woods for the first time some years ago, around this time in August, hence the link that I made to Lunasa. And I thought that this most beautiful prose written by W.B. Yeats would be most appropriate to bring here today, because actually at this very moment, the 62nd International Yeats Summer School is going on in Sligo. I won't bring it live because I made a video compilation of the words to music kindly provided to me by the world famous violinist and fiddle player Steve Wickham. And it took me a very long time to put this together. And this video was part of a performance I was asked to bring at the Irish College in Leuven in Belgium. Some years ago as part of a Yeats in Translation event. So without further ado, I would like for John to bring that video on, if that...
Yeah, as I say, I've got the two linked together in one video, if you want to say something about the second video now.
Okay, so the second piece is something very different. It's a poem I wrote that is in one of my books, and this is the book in question. It's actually a bit related to lore, just a coincidence.
That's lovely.
Yeah. It's called Unveiling Ancient Knowledge at the Lochru Cairns, a journey into the discoveries of the subtle energies measured with a Lecker antenna. So this book got recognized by the Irish Heritage Council and Irish authorities as original and of cultural merit. Now, my elaborate scientific research of the megalithic sites in Ireland and in Brittany in France has given me reason to believe that these sites were built at strategic and meticulously chosen locations for better harvest and livestock of extremely high nurturing qualities. Hence the link to Lunasa. It would take me way too long to explain any of this to you here, but if you wish so, you can read and find out more how I came to this conclusion in my books that are available from Amazon. Now, there are three books I wrote, the one about the Lochru Cairns, and then I have two books about the megaliths in Brittany. One is The Secrets of the Energies at the Megaliths in Cornack and Brittany, and the other one is Signposts to the Holy Grail, Infinite Energy with Infinite Possibilities. But what I see is that re-emerging, it is really reproducible what is happening at these cairns. I didn't write, for example, about Mace Cairn or Knocknaray or Carrickeel, only that's in another book, but that's not my recent research. Is that actually what I find at Knocknaray and what I find at Carrickeel, it just confirms what I found at Lochru and in Brittany. Certainly like in the region of Cornack, which has a multitude of megalithic sites. Now, maybe as I heard Laura talking, and to better understand that the poem that I wrote that will be shown as a video here as well, I'm just going to read a very small excerpt from my book. So what I'm seeing again and again, and this is actually a theory that radiesthesists from France had in the 1800s, is they are saying that the cairns, the megalithic sites are built on these places where water is coming up like punctures in underground, deep underground water streams of very pure water, is coming up just underneath those cairns. And this is actually what I am measuring, is that I can measure several streams coming from the cairns. So I originally thought that that would be rainwater falling down, but it isn't. It is water coming up from very beneath the earth, from these underground water streams. So I'm just going to read a little, very short excerpt from my book about the location of the Loughru cairns, and this will also be useful in understanding my poem. The ridge of hills marks a watershed, with water to the north and east flowing eastwards towards the Irish Sea via the Boyne and Blackwater, and the water to the south and west flowing towards the River Shannon via the River Inny. Now, the ridge of Loughru is, the water is flowing on the one side, it's going down the Shannon and the Inny towards the Atlantic, and on the other side it's going to the Boyne and the Blackwater into the Irish Sea. So it's a very strategic place to do something with the water. I'm not going to explain you all of that here now. You really need to look at that up in my books, because it would take me hours just to well, maybe not hours, but I certainly don't have time for this here now. Now further, what I found is on the Loughru Hills, there are the remains of cultivation ridges or lazy beds which grew corn or potatoes and were abandoned after the mid-19th century famine. Hence, they are often called Famine Ridges. So these ridges were still producing food when there was the famine in Ireland. Robert Thomson's The Statistical Survey of Meat, 1802, compares Loughru with some of the best land in Ireland and states, the grounds about Old Castle are remarkable for giving nice barley crops, and the Loughru Mountains were well tilled, produced crops that would not disgrace the baronies of Kells, Morgallion, or Skerne. Now, I have done research at Rathcrogan Mount in Tusk on the west coast of Ireland. I haven't written about my research yet, or we will see, because it's not finished. But actually what I found is that the livestock that is cultivated near the Rathcrogan Mount is actually award-winning sheep. So here again as well, like it's a confirmation, or it would tend to be confirmations saying that whatever these cairns and megalithic sites are doing to the energies of the land is like it's transforming it into very beneficial energies to get better harvests and better crops and better livestock. Now, the poem is the opening poem of my book and is meant to set the scene for the location of the Loughru cairns and for the outcome of my research. So John will now show you the video of me reciting the poem in my garden in Sligo in Ireland. And you will also see the text of the poem appearing, and as well as a few beautiful photos I made at the Loughru cairns, of the cairns and the landscape and the stone art. So I hope you enjoy.
Right, that's wonderful. Thank you very much for that introduction. It certainly will make sense now that we got the poems coming up. So here we have Anne-Marie de Motz. The first one is The Seven Woods of Call, and then we're into Loughru. So thank you very much for that, Anne-Marie.
Thank you.
I walked among the seven woods of Cool, Shanwalla, where a willow-bordered pond gathers the wild duck from the winter dawn. Shady Caldortha, sunnier Carlino, where many hundred squirrels are as happy as though they had been hidden by green boughs where old age cannot find them. Parknally, where hazel and ash and privet blind the paths. Dim Parknacarrick, where the wild bees fling their sudden fragrances on the green air. Dim Parknatariff, where enchanted eyes have seen immortal and mild proud shadows walk. Dim Inchwood that hides badger fox and marten cat. 7 odors, 7 murmurs, 7 woods. I had not eyes like those enchanted eyes, yet dreamed that beings happier than men moved round me in the shadows, and at night my dreams were cloven by voices and by fires. And the images I have woven in this story moved round me in the voices and the fires. And more I may not speak of, for they that cleave the waters of sleep can make a chattering tongue heavy like stone, their wisdom being half silence. How shall I name you immortal, mild, proud shadows? I only know that all we know comes from you, and that you come from Eden on flying feet. Is Eden far away? Or do you hide from human thought as hares and mice and conies that run before the reaping who can lie in the last twitch of the barley? Eden out of time and out of space? And do you gather about us when pale light shining on water and fall among leaves and winds blowing from flowers and whir of feathers in the green quiet have uplifted the heart? I have made this poem for you that men may read it as men in the old times before the harps began, poured out wine for the high invisible ones.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Anne-Marie Delmotte. I am a scientist. I conduct research of the energies of the land at the megalithic sites to look how they interact with each other. I did elaborate research at the Loughru cairns in Ireland and found my results to be too important not to write about it. I just published a book with my findings called Unveiling Ancient Knowledge at the Loughru Cairns, a journey into the discoveries of the subtle energies, measured with a Lecker antenna. The book starts with a poem I wrote about the site and my findings that I would like to read for you here today. The poem is called Loughru. Loughru, on a ridge, 4 hills, covered in shades of green. The air so pure and clean, between Blackwater and Inny, Shannon and Boyne, stands many a cairn, almost untouched, their simplicity and sheer beauty moving many a soul. Built by the ancients many thousands of years ago, whose knowledge of land, stones and folk came to them as easily as the fertile streams flow from the cairns down the hills into the rivers, ocean and sea, to serve all life, all that were, are, and yet to be. Thank you for listening.
Well, thanks very much for that, Anne-Marie. Delightful. And thank you, everyone else who've been uh, patiently waiting. We're going into overtime now, and we have one more guest. We've got B. Smith coming up. Let's see, before that, you've made some comments, and Claire, exquisite. There you go. And Little Wing is beautiful. There you go. A lovely poem. And even Jonathan Pipe's on board here. Lovely to see you, Jonathan. Beautiful. And Kimberly, yes, that was spectacular. All of this is so fascinating. Donna Johnson is wonderful on that. It's a pure delight, Chandler. So from Claire Roach there. Thanks for all your lovely comments there. We got B. Smith, who, as say, this is a spectacular. I'm sorry, B, that we've left you late, but a lot of people do follow through. So thanks very much. We're in the overtime, and we've still got the best bits. The good news to you is the Dinshenkas part of how these stories came from the poetry of Dinshenkas. I'm moving that to next Sunday because it would be very fitting to next Sunday. So anyway, without further ado, let's say hello to B, who's been busy baking and then been with us all the way through to this. That's the wrong person. Where is B? Hello, B.
I'm here. I'm here.
In the black. I'm going to try again. Where are you? You're not there. I can see you in the back room, and I can't see you actually on the screen. I'm going to try a full one. Yeah, there you go.
Right. Okay. Yeah, it's a bit dark in this room today. I've been having to play around with the lighting. I'll just try one thing.
Yeah, because you're so clear. I got the picture of you in the sort of green room, as you say, and you're very clear there. But for some reason, I'm not getting you on the main screen.
Oh well.
Oh, because we want to see your bread.
What?
We want to see your bread and your baking and your Lunacer order. I'm going to try again. There we go. No, you're not on yet either. Oh, that is so weird. I've never had that challenge before. We've definitely got your audio clear anyway.
Well, it's good that the audio is clear.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
Are you going to be able to share the photo that I sent you of my Lunasa harvest?
I could. That's on Facebook, isn't it? That getting a transfer from Facebook onto the StreamYard is a bit tricky. I keep going, and I'll see what I can do about that.
If not, if I press share here, can I call up the photo from my machine?
Yes, you can. That's a great idea. Try that.
Okay,
one.
I'll do my opening, and then I will see if the technical fairies and angels will help me share the photos of it. Because I have several poems for you. And because Lunasa was a real communal celebration for years and years. And of course, even though things are opening up a bit now, things are not like wildly communal. They are very small, there are smaller gatherings still that we are having. I thought that I would share ways that I have celebrated Lunasa in years past and this year as well. Always I bake on Lunasa Eve. A lot of people would bake soda bread. I love spelt. And I was really pleased when Laura was talking about how, the original inhabitants brought spelt with them, because I wouldn't know how to bake barley bread. But so I celebrate with a spelt loaf. And also I was down in the garden picking peas and broad beans and lettuce and the first courgettes out of the garden. And one of the things you can do is to create a Lunasa altar in home. And so I have one that's a bit more formal, but then there's also the kitchen altar, which is the one with the bread and with the harvest. So bear with me. Technical fairies and angels, please help me share the photo. I'll be back in a moment.
If you're not, I'm going to have it up any second. I've just got your two photos up. Yeah, I can do it.
Okay, you do it. You go for it. You go for it. Because
just give me a couple of seconds and I will. I've got one. There's one. That's now. Explain what I got there.
Okay, what you've got there is one of the two Lammas loaves or Lunas loaves that I baked last night. It's a spelt. It's a whole wheat and white spelt loaf that has an egg wash on it and then has mixed seeds on top of it. And then in the basket in the front is a great mess of produce, which has at base both oak leaf lettuce and green lettuce. There are peas in there, there are broad beans there, and there are two very small courgettes that I picked this morning. So that is the first fruits of, well, we have had some peas and some broad beans and some lettuce earlier, but not since, they've only just come in the last week. But yeah, so this is basically the kitchen altar for the first fruits. And then I have the more formal altar. Can you bring that one up?
There you go.
And I do this with every turn of the calendar of the wheel. And on the left, you can see a card from the Wisdom of the Killorgan Oracle that has been created by Jane Brideson. And I actually picked that card on full moon, and it is called First Fruits. And I thought, ooh, how appropriate. Next to that is some grasses that have grown in our garden, and I've just bound them up and saved them, and I put them out on the altar at this time. And to the right, you will see the Druid Animal Oracle. Now, every year at Samhain, I do a Wheel of the Year spread using the Druid Animal Oracle. And with every turn of the wheel, I swap it out and I bring out the card that is for the season. And for me this year, Swan is the totem beast for this particular season. At the back, you will see some tree mallow and lady's mantle that we have cut back from the garden. And there's a candle and various crystals. And on the right, there's a little one that says "Be Positive." That was a gift from a friend. And it is holding down the swan feather and a magpie feather. Again, swan, because swan is the totem for this season. Magpie, because magpies have been hanging around me a lot these past couple of months. And I was able to actually pick a feather up off the lane when I was walking down to the Holy Well a few weeks back. That Holy Well is about a half a kilometer from my house, and I thought I would bring it up because where I live in West Haven is also very close to Belcoo. It's part of what is now called the Quilca Lakelands Geopark, Global Geopark. It used to be known as the Marble Arch Caves Global Geopark, but they changed the name to make it a bit more, to have a more strongly cross-border identity. And both, the thing is that these holy wells, both my local one in Tubber, which is the Irish for well, and it's actually known as Morris Tubber, which is Mary's well, is that there were Lunacer fairs held at both Belcoo Holy Well and at Tubber Holy Well. What is unique about Tubber Holy Well was that there was a Lunacer fair held there many, many moons ago, and a fight broke out, which is not uncommon at these fairs, and blood was spilt into the holy well, and it was kind of considered from then that there was a sense of pollution to the well, that there was a curse upon the well. Now, about not quite 10 years ago, less than 10 years ago, a local farmer, when he was trying to create a right of way up to some land that he owned above Tubber Well, he actually discovered that he owned the land for that well, and he assumed hereditary well keeper, that role. He completely got the well renovated because it was beginning to fall apart, cleaned it out, and had the local priest come and bless the well, lift the curse, and it is now very much it has always been a center of local devotion, but now even more so. And last August 15th, there was a mass, an open air mass said there that was very well attended. And quite possibly there'll be another one this year as well, depending on what he can organize with the priest. But that's sort of the private things that you can do at Lunasa when you may not be able to get to a fair or want to go to a fair. So if you can move the slide back to just me, John, I will launch myself into some Lunacer poems for you.
No, do. It is. I was way back on my photo collection, but fire ahead. There you go. There's B.
Grand. Okay. So I have a few Lunacer poems, and the first one is called Lunacer First Light. Dawns can be sketchy, a tease of cobalt cloud shot through with gilded light, threading, Midas-like. The lupins, aquilegia, and foxgloves have dropped their heads. I empty their seeds out into paper envelopes. No tumbrils, no fanfare, no drum roll, just the bread knife slicing into the spelt loaf I baked on Lunasa Eve, that ancient grain stone ground, ready for honey or jam on breakfast toast. Pips in the sour sweet raspberry jam, seeds not saved for sowing in another season. Not all is lost, even at our most careless. The light takes a downward slant, like a sharp blade angling to cut, the whoosh and air whir of the scythe's brush. Now, the next poem I'm going to read actually makes mention of Crumdu or and there's another one that mentions Crumcrook, and both of them have an association with Belcoo, and which is the area that I am very much part of here.
Before you go into those, B, is there any chance you're going to be available next Sunday?
I could do.
Yeah, the reason I'm saying that is because next Sunday we're going to be doing Crom Dove. So any chance of holding those poems as a lovely surprise thing for next, well, not surprise now, but can we have those poems next week? Because that would be so wonderful if you can do that one, if you can hold that for next week.
I can hold that one, and then I
Yeah,
can
definitely.
close with another one that is just entitled Lunasa.
Yeah, let's do that. Oh, goodness me, we got a special next week as well. Thanks for that.
Okay.
Great.
Okay, that's grand. Okay, Lunasa. I am the dragonfly winging over acres of meadowsweet. I am the moth beating the window pane at midnight. I am the spider spinning seasons turn in all corners. I am the dying light of sun. I am moon's shadow in morning sky. I am the last hot breath of wind and first hearth fire. I am full moon and high tide. I am the thrumming of rainfall. I am the still lake under low cloud. I am the heather purpling the uplands. I am wildflowers gone to seed. I am the hare scampering towards equinox. I am the black turf for the fire and potatoes for the pot. I am the blessed lady of the holy well. I am the offerings, and I am the deal. So,
oh, wonderful.
That's my final poem for you this week.
Oh, goodness me, that was excellent. Now I'm excited that we're going to have you back, and I won't be holding you for I won't be holding you for an hour or so, because we'll have that you pretty much in front. In fact, that's the I didn't do the Dunchenkos, the storytelling from the poetry from the 11th century medieval people. So I'll be kicking off with that. Then we'll have some more of you, which is absolutely fantastic. So next week, 8th of August on Sunday, that's going to be the third of the Lunacer Nature Folklore sessions. Crom Dove we got for next week, the 8th. And then I'm going into Crom Cruach for the 15th, and that'll be the fourth one. It's because I tried to cram them all in last year, and we can't, as you see already, the Lunacer Lammas is such a vast subject. So Crom Dove Sunday, first Sunday of August. It has a naive sort of devil worship link. Some people, Christians, will say it's devil worship, but the folklore is all part of Lunacer reverence. I'm going to try find some imagery, because links to Crom Dove is up near where Bee lives. Muxlack is not far from Cavan Border, but it's also, I know some of you watching, you've been to Limerick, and you've been to the Grange circles there. There's a big bull stone there. You don't see the bull on it anymore, but that has a link with it. So I'll talk about that as well. So it's all part of the Lunacer thing, and I'm just trying to scratch around, going down through my pictures to find something so I can talk about this a bit better. There we go. And there's a stone. I'm going to be talking about that stone as well next week. So as I say, it's all about the traditions of Muxlack, Cavan bordering, Leitrim, and Green Circles, Limerick. Now, as I say, they're mixed, and some of the imagery is mixed. So Crom Dove is very much an underworld feature. It's very much underworld folklore. The way that the underworld has its networks of service, the abundance of this time. And I'm going to present all kinds of imagery. And then the 15th of August, we've got the Crom Cruach. Here's one of the Crom Cruach imageries here. And of course, Herne the Hunter, Nunas, all these people, they all have horns on their heads. So we're talking about those people as well. It is all nature folklore. And the growing up in the light from the underworld, from Crom Dove into the light of Crom Cruach, all the abundance of this time. And I think you'll love the imagery of that. And of course, you've got Bee's poem as well. And then on the 22nd of August, we're away from the Lunacer, but it's Heritage Week. And so all you poets there do share and submit for the Heritage Week, Poets for Heritage. That's on the 22nd of August. So prepare, submit your poems themed on heritage, and we can share them here. So let's have a last look at, well, it's almost last look at comments here. Who we got? We've got Patricia Rice. Yes, the garden's lovely. Nice to see. Thank Claire for letting us visit. Yeah, thank you, Claire. And you can visit here, as I say. Claire has B&B running, so you can come visit and ponder here yourself. And Little Wings, beautiful, happy day. Thank you very much. Garden looks lovely behind you. Thank you, B. Enjoyed your contribution. And there's Claire, wondrous bee, simply beautiful. Yes, as usual, but Bee's a star, isn't she? How we can see the baking flowers and hear the poems. And for some of them, there's a yes there for something, which is quite spectacular. It seems the garden was the hit through this. So a great applause for Claire on the work of the garden and those that help. It is very peaceful. It's just an oasis in the middle of chaos. Absolutely wonderful. And write to Claire and see if you can come here for a while. So thank you for all your comments there. Thanks again for our amazing guests that we had here. We had La Dooley, Chandler Nichols, B. Smith, and Dame Anne-Marie Delmont. I think all of them were absolutely spectacular. So thank you all very much for that. And if you're watching this as an archive this evening through the week, please keep the comments going, because I do look at them and I do answer them as much as I can. Subscribe with to the bell icons on YouTube and on Facebook, maybe. And so enjoy a safe week, full of wonder, the inspirations, enchantments, the pleasure of this Lunacer month, and all the abundance after Hungry July. Well, it used to be Hungry July, but people are now with their polytunnels again. Nah. But, you know, we'll see. Anyway, till next Sunday, play well. And thank you for being with us. Glorious day. Thanks, Claire, for the garden that everybody loves sharing as well. So, and this was all wonderful. And so, bye-bye. That's all we got today. Thank you.